G'day folks, I'm Damon Olson from Nomad Sport Fishing. Welcome to the Nomad Tackle segment. We're going to take you through a few of the lures, poppers, rods, reels, line that we use for targeting GTs in the various locations that we go to. Now, there's a couple of main types of lures that we use. This one here is called a stick bait. Swims along maybe a couple of inches under the surface. There's also surface stick baits that just skip along the surface. We've got one here that's called a blooping popper. It's got a big cup face on it, moves a lot of water. When you bloop it through the surface, you get a big bubble trail behind the lure. It's really attractive to the GTs. And this is your other type of lure. This one's called a skipping popper. You just rip it along the surface quite fast. It's meant to imitate a long tom or a garfish, something like that. The GTs just chase after it. It's quite an effective lure. Now, it really depends on where you're fishing as to what type of lure you're going to use. So there's a big variety of locations that you can catch GTs, and it really just depends where you are as to which one you'll use. Now, we'll show you how to rig some of these up. I'm going to take the Nomad stick bait here and just show you how we rig this with single hooks. Now, we've got a couple of Owner SJ41 11.0 single hooks that are mounted onto a 300-pound split ring. Now, I put these hooks on so that they sit in the opposing direction. So you can see the split ring's there and the hooks are facing opposite directions. That's fairly important. Now, basically all we're going to do is put this onto the belly of our stick bait. Now, we've got a pair of Owner heavy-duty split ring pliers. Now, these split ring pliers are really important because there's very, very few brands of split ring pliers available that will actually open a 300-pound split ring properly. So it's very frustrating not being able to open the split rings. Now, what we're going to do is open this fella up and simply put him onto the swivel in the belly of the stick bait. Now, the swivel in there is quite important because it means that when you do hook up a fish, the hooks can just swivel around and they're not going to pull out. So basically what we've got here is two of these hooks on the belly facing opposite directions. Now, they act as a bit of an anchor. They make the lure swim a lot nicer. There's quite a lot of advantages to using this system. Now, what we're going to do on the tail, basically we've got an Owner Jobu 9.0 single hook, and this is already mounted onto a 300-pound split ring. Now, we're going to put this onto the tail of the stick bait. Now, again, we've got a swivel on the tail for the same reason, that when you hook the fish up, the lure and the line can swivel and it's not putting sideways pressure on the hook, and you're going to land a lot more fish using this method. Now, basically all we do here is we just hook the split ring onto the tail, and there you go. Now, that's your stick bait rigged up and ready to go. The swivel on the tail here allows the Owner Jobu single hook to sit facing upwards. Now, that's a really important thing because you'll get a lot more hookups with that method. The two hooks on the belly here facing out to the side, that's going to catch you a lot of fish that rig. Now, the barbs on these hooks haven't been crushed yet. We always crush the barbs before we use these lures, mainly for the safety of the anglers, but also for the fish's safety. If you don't crush the barbs, the hooks are very hard to get out and you can hurt the fish. So that's the way that we rig up our stick baits, poppers, skipping poppers, pretty much everything for GT fishing. We vary the size of the hooks depending on the size of the lure, but that's pretty much the absolute best method that we've found for rigging these lures. They swim really well, they catch heaps of fish. Go and give it a try and see what you think. One of the things I wanted to do here while we're on the beach is to take you through some of the casting techniques of basically how to cast these stick baits and poppers. Now, it's pretty important to be able to cast properly because the further you can get your lure out there, the more fish you're going to catch generally. Now, it's not always the case, but quite often it is. Now, the way you want to set yourself up, I'm right-handed, so I've got my right hand on the reel, got my back finger around here, two fingers there, index finger around the line. So that's basically just holding the line on the spool at the moment, and you want to have probably about 4 to 5 feet of line hanging off the tip of your rod. So this sort of distance of line hanging off the tip of your rod when you're casting, that helps you load the rod up and you'll get more distance. So we've got our hand on there like that. put your left hand on the butt of the rod. Now what you're actually doing is using your two hands and making a lever action to load the rod. The whole idea here is to get the rod loaded up and use the graphite content in the rod to flick that lure out there for you. So what we're actually going to do is hold it up like this. You want to have your left hand pulling down and you want to push through with your right hand. So you're basically creating a lever action here, and it's going to load the rod up and allow you to get that lure a lot further out. So I'll just fire one out there and basically show you what you're doing. Now that's a 150 stick bait on there. It probably went about 80-90 metres, but the idea really is to get the tip of that rod loaded up and use the right size lure for the rod that you're using. That's really important. But look, if you get yourself a quality rod, quality reel, and some nice braided line, casting these lures out there is going to be a lot easier, and you're going to catch a lot more fish and have a lot more fun doing it. Anyway, get yourself into some of this good gear, see how it goes.